All right, so we're back with another video here today. As the title suggests, I'm going to be comparing Gucci Pour Homme II with an interpretation that's recently come out, and this one is from the house of FOMO, and this is FOMO's Fraglovers Tea. All right, so this is pretty much just the presentation of the Fraglovers Tea. You've got the name of the fragrance here on the front of the box. This is a 100 ml bottle. You don't have anything like written on the sides of the box, nothing on the top. And then on the back, you've got like the ingredients down here. This is also an extrait de parfum. There's also the authenticity sticker up here. And then on the bottom, you have the like batch date and the barcode and stuff like that. This particular fragrance, this one was manufactured in February of 2025. So fairly new. And then this opens up like that. You've got the bottle sitting here, and it's kind of like in front of this mirror. And this mirror has like some writing on it. It says, "In the morning mist, a fragrance ritual awakens my day." All right. So that is that there. You got FOMO written down there. And then the actual bottle here, you've got FOMO Fraglovers Tea, extrait de parfum. There's nothing on the back of the bottle, and then you've got the FOMO logo on like the actual cap. All right. Also, this does have a pressurized sprayer, so pretty nice on that. But overall, I'm not really the hugest fan of the bottle. To me, the bottle just kind of looks very cheap to me. All right. Now, as far as the note breakdown goes on the two fragrances, they are quite different. So for the top notes of Fraglovers Tea, you have in the top notes black tea, plum, mandarin, and camphor. In the mid, you have floral notes, clove, and rose. And then in the base, you have cedar, tonka, olive tree, and musk. Now for Gucci Pour Homme II, in the top notes, you get violet leaf and bergamot. In the mid, you get black tea, cinnamon, and pimento. And then in the base, you get tonka, tobacco leaf, myrrh, musk, and olive tree. So how do these two smell compared to each other? I'll say that in the opening, Fraglovers Tea smells nothing like Gucci Pour Homme II at all. All right, so if you're expecting the same sort of opening or even a comparable opening to Gucci Pour Homme II, you're not gonna get that at all with Fraglovers Tea. All right. Now this definitely becomes a lot closer to Gucci Pour Homme II after probably the first 30 to 45 minutes. But for that first 30 to 45 minutes, this will not smell anything like Gucci Pour Homme II. Basically, what this smells like when you first spray this on is it smells more to me like the base notes in the fragrance. So it comes off very dry and woody, very dark, very green, and you could say it has like the slightest bit of like the black tea that kind of sits in the background, but the opening on this is nowhere near what the opening is on Gucci Pour Homme II. And it's not even like the typical like, okay, this is a cheaper or slightly lower quality, interpretation. So, maybe the opening just isn't as crisp as the original, or it's not as bright. No, the opening on Fraglovers Tea is, like I said, completely different from the opening of Gucci Pour Homme II. With the Gucci Pour Homme II, you right away get that blast of like those really, really bright, violet leaves. You get the really fresh bergamot with this. And then you get like the spiciness from like the cinnamon and the pimento along with the black tea. This has none of that when you first spray it on, other than, like I said, I would say the smallest hint of like black tea is what you get in the background of this, but it's mainly like a very kind of woody, green, dry sort of fragrance in the initial opening, and really, again, from the opening all throughout until you get about, I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes or so through the fragrance or so. So I was definitely like, I was off put by this fragrance when I initially sprayed it, because it was like, okay, what is this? Like, this is not Gucci Pour Homme II. So, you know, I would say for sure, like, if you're wanting a fragrance that smells like Gucci Pour Homme II, you know, from, you know, opening to mid to dry down, so far the only thing that I've smelled, you know, that really captures this fragrance is Alexandria Fragrances, the Pour Homme II. I mean, that fragrance is like basically like a 1-to-1 to pretty much to Gucci Pour Homme II. Yes, it is significantly more expensive than the Fraglovers Tea, but this is like, this kind of takes me back to like the Club de Nuit Intense Man days, where yes, it was a okay interpretation of Aventus, but that first kind of 30 to 45 minutes or so of the fragrance, where it gave you like that lemon pledge cleaner type of smell. And, you know, you even had people in review videos telling people like, hey, if you're going to wear this fragrance, like, don't leave your house for like 30 to 45 minutes or something like that. Like, this takes me back to those days of wearing that fragrance. And that's kind of how I feel about this one, except to me, this one is actually a little bit worse than that. Because, you know, again, when you're looking for, you know, when you're wanting to smell like Gucci Pour Homme II, like, this is definitely a certain type of vibe that you get from this fragrance, right? So this is not that vibe at all when you first spray this on. Now, again, after that first kind of 30 to 45 minutes, it definitely starts to become, I would say, at least probably about 90 to 95% close to Gucci Pour Homme II, and actually a little bit stronger, by the way. But 30 to 45 minutes of just this really like dry green, woody sort of like cedar smell. It's not for me at all. So, you know, that is, I would say, the kind of downfall of this fragrance is it just really doesn't capture Gucci Pour Homme II at all for almost an hour for the most part. All right. Now, again, once you get past the 30 to 45 minute mark, I do feel like this does do the black tea note pretty well. And then you start to get more of those spices that come in as well with this fragrance. So you do kind of, you know, start to smell that like cinnamon and pimento spice note that you get in the original Gucci Pour Homme II. Like I said, the black tea note is definitely pretty good also. And it's also, like I said, overall, it's stronger. This is a stronger fragrance. This is an extrait de parfum. I believe the Gucci Pour Homme II is probably like a EDP. I don't know exactly what this is because I don't have the original box to it. But I would assume that the Gucci Pour Homme II is like a EDP or a EDT possibly. So this definitely, it does project a lot better off of my skin for sure than what the Gucci Pour Homme II does. And this also does last a little bit longer. So, you know, this is not like a terrible interpretation of Gucci Pour Homme II. I'll say that. But what I will say is, you know, the Alexandria Fragrances, the Pour Homme II, is absolutely the much better interpretation of, you know, the Gucci Pour Homme II scent profile. That fragrance, you know, it was basically identical for the most part to Gucci Pour Homme II. And this one is not, you know, that's all I can really say is it's not. Now, again, as for the far sort of dry down and, you know, I guess really you could say like the mid to dry down, this definitely is pretty close to Gucci Pour Homme II. So I think if you're someone who has the patience to kind of get through that first 30 to 45 minutes. And, you know, obviously you don't have access to being able to get this fragrance at any sort of reasonable price, then, you know, I think this makes sense for like the really budget conscious person. But I think with the fact that Alexandria has gotten their version like basically like almost identical to the Gucci, that would be the version of Gucci Pour Homme II that I would go after, you know, if you can't actually get the real thing. So like once I go through this bottle, which I mean, with how many bottles I have in my collection, I seriously doubt that I ever get through this bottle. But if I ever did go through this bottle, or if something happened to this bottle or whatnot, I wouldn't necessarily be upset, because I know that I could get basically the exact same, you know, experience with Alexandria's the Pour Homme II. This is not going to give you the exact same experience. You know, that's my honest take on this one. So, would I still recommend this fragrance to people? I would say yes, if you are a super budget, you know, conscious person, and you either can't or you don't want to pay the, you know, sort of Alexandria fragrances premium. Then I would say, okay, this would probably be like your only other option. I don't really know of any other Gucci Pour Homme II interpretations. So I think really right now, this would be your only option. But I think if you're someone who can afford to spend, you know, $60 to $100 or so on a fragrance, then I would not recommend this to you. I would say absolutely go for the Alexandria's the Pour Homme II. Now for the performance, again, the performance on this is actually another, you know, really good positive to this fragrance. So longevity wise, I was getting, you know, way better longevity for sure than what I got with the Gucci Pour Homme II. So this was easily lasting on my skin, you know, over 10 hours for sure. Whereas, you know, the Gucci Pour Homme II is more kind of like around that like 7-hour mark for me or so. So, you know, it definitely outperformed it in longevity, and then definitely, in the projection. The projection of this is at least about twice as much as what you get with the Gucci Pour Homme II. So it definitely projects, you know, at least probably about 5 to 6 feet or so for like the first 2 hours. But, you know, again, half of that time is you just waiting for this to kind of smell like Gucci Pour Homme II. You know, but, you know, I would say once you kind of get, to like that hour 1 to 2, then that's when this one, you know, it's pretty enjoyable, because it does smell at that point, you know, from hour 1 to 2, at least about, you know, 90 to 95% close pretty much to Gucci Pour Homme II. So yeah, I mean, performance on this is really, really good, man. I will say that. Now, as far as my closeness rating on this fragrance, I would say the closeness on this, I would have to give it like probably a 75 to 80% out of 100. And that's mainly because of that opening. The opening on this, I mean, it doesn't smell anything like Gucci Pour Homme II at all. So, I mean, I don't even know what I would give just the opening itself as a rating. You know, but I would say this fragrance does redeem itself after that first hour, because, you know, again, after that first hour or so, you know, or, you know, 30 to 45 minutes, after that point, this does become extremely close to Gucci Pour Homme II, and it actually is, you know, stronger. So, you know, like I said, I would give it overall about a 75 to 80%. And then in terms of my just overall rating on this fragrance, this to me would be like a 6 out of 10. You know, the opening on this, at least for me, is that bad to where like I said, I do not enjoy wearing this fragrance at all. especially because of the simple fact that I do have the original, so I can just wear the original and get a much better experience. You know, again, I would say this I would only recommend to somebody that's on a really tight budget. They, you know, want that sort of Gucci Pour Homme II smell and experience, but obviously they can't access that for a reasonable price. And they don't have, you know, the resources to be able to go out and get even like the Alexandria version. So, I mean, that would be who I would, you know, recommend this for. But for anybody else, I would say this is not a fragrance that I would recommend to anyone. All right. So that's my take on Fraglovers Tea from FOMO. Definitely let me know in the comments what you all think about this fragrance. Let me know if you agree with my assessment of the fragrance. If not, also let me know as well. And also I'll have links in the description to where you can pick this one up if you choose to. Also, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see you on the next video.